Brilliant. Well, welcome back. Thank you all for staying the course for the best session of the whole conference. We're here to discuss AI, and I just got an email from one of my children's school saying, will I sign up to the AI webinar to teach parents about AI? And that's a topic we're going to discuss later, unless we get diverted by VAT on school fees. But anyway, I'm delighted to welcome two people who know a lot about AI just to talk in general about it. Matt Brittin, who neither need an introduction, but I'll introduce him anyway. Matt Brittin, the head of Google EMEA, stopping by to be with us before going to Brussels to lobby for more regulation. And
they've done theirs actually already.
And Sherry Coutu, of course, the founder of Interactive Investor, a great angel investor, a great proponent of tech, and a great proponent of tech in schools, in fact, backing founders for schools as well. I just want to start with you, Matt, to kind of set the scene, given where you are in Google, obviously one of the most important companies in the whole AI ecosystem. First of all, I want to ask the stupid question, just to set the rules of the road, the difference between Gen AI and AI in general, just so we all know what we're talking about when we have this conversation. And then to give Google's kind of bird's eye view of where we are going with AI, the impact it's going to have on productivity and innovation.
Yeah, I can do that in about 30 seconds.
Good.
I guess, so where are we? You know, AI is not new. It's not just chatbots, but it's still very early. It's not new in that sort of AI and machine learning and neural networks, understanding things we've been using for sort of over 10 years. But the breakthrough, and what we've all seen in the last year or so in generative AI, is large language models producing fresh new content that hasn't been there before. So that would be how I'd sort of define in simple terms generative AI, versus the AI which is, I would say, more about like spotting patterns, making predictions, and learning. And spotting patterns, making predictions, and learning started for us with things like Google Translate, making that better and better, moved into, you'll remember, AlphaGo, playing the game of Go. It's a super complicated game, more potential moves than atoms in the universe. So they said computers could never win, and then the computer did win, built by DeepMind here in the UK. And that was really the sort of underpinnings of what we see now with large language models, but also the other stuff which I think is super exciting at the moment, which is science at digital speed. So we can talk about chatbots and LLMs, but actually the stuff I'm really excited about, and I know Sherry is too, is some of the breakthroughs we're seeing now on protein folding, on material science, potential breakthroughs in energy and sustainability. There's a huge, I think, moment for all of us. And so I think that's my other point about it. You know, it's still very early. We are not in a predestined future where AI is just going to do what it's going to do to all of us. Actually, it's a moment that's too important for us to miss, where we can actually shape how we harness it. How do we want it to work in the world? What do we think is right for it to do in Britain? How do we harness it for growth, which we desperately need?
Yeah, this will come out sounding wrong, but I was going to divide the chat into sort of two bits. One is AI for humanity. That's the kind of massive impact it can have on science and indeed on climate change. And there's kind of AI for business, where how does business use AI to increase productivity and what are the threats from AI to business? But Sherry, you're based in Cambridge. You see this on your doorstep as well every day, the impact that AI is having on life sciences and what the incredible breakthroughs are, and particularly for UK companies.
Yes, thank you. And I'm going to talk about AI first, and then generative AI. So in Cambridge and in life sciences, there's some really interesting things going on, particularly around mental health. And what you're seeing is the ability to match therapists with somebody who has something wrong with them much more efficiently. So that means that you're seeing a decrease in cost to something like 90% decrease in cost, and the outcomes are happening 50% faster. And those productivity gains are immensely exciting, not only for the person who becomes healed, for the clinician whose job, satisfaction goes up materially, but also for the organization that employs the clinician. It's an incredible win-win-win situation. It has pretty much eradicated, in a number of cases, the wait lists, and that is a great thing. I think also in cancer, there's some, the pattern recognition that you can use with AI. You're getting healing rates, particularly around breast cancer, much faster. And that, again, it's very exciting. Now, if we didn't train our staff and we didn't focus on how to harness these technologies, then we wouldn't get these benefits, which is why I'm really, really excited about everybody embracing this. And I'm frightened from a competitive advantage point of view as a human and as a business person and as somebody who cares about the economic growth, about there being a slowdown or not even a slowdown, a not complete embracing, I think damages all of us from whatever perspective you're looking at. So I worry when I hear scaremongers because I think we shape it. This is not something that's being done to us, and we can control it as we have other innovations in the past. In terms of the scale, I think in the Industrial Revolution we saw productivity increases of between 18 and 22%. We're seeing the span between 20 and 80% on average happening here, which is how much more pervasive it's going to be and how much more transformative it will be for those who use it, and how untransformative it will be for those who don't use it. So I want us to be mindful of equipping everybody to use it as a fundamental tool that they need and they have a right to have.
There are all sorts of things going on in that answer and trying to unpack it in terms of coming back to Matt and productivity. I mean, you've talked about some of the hugely successful UK life sciences companies that are using AI. You, Sherry, have talked about that. And I see everything through the prism of a politician and UK PLC and how it embraces this challenge. So when Sherry talks about everyone embracing AI, how does Google help that happen? Because we're talking about the large companies that can have big contracts with Google, but we're also talking about SMEs who can't necessarily afford to use all the tools available.
Yeah, so I think you break it well into sort of these two pieces of the sort of extraordinary scientific breakthroughs, but then crucially, the intelligence for everyone. How do we make tools that work for everyone? I suppose at Google, that's always been the heart of our mission statement. We want people to be able to use our products with kind of very low to zero cost and with no training. And so I think what's interesting is starting to see, Gemini, our large language model series, which is state of the art in Workspace, in Google Docs, in Gmail, so that you can get a first draft right there and then. And so I think some of those tools are very simple at this stage, and we'll look back and go, how on earth did I manage that before? But when you can get like a huge long thread of emails summarized really succinctly, that kind of thing's quite helpful. So I think we're starting to see the rollout of those things. We've been a bit more careful, I'd say responsible in doing that, because I think we were concerned about the hallucinations of large language models, and we're known for being able to turn to search and find what you value. But I think more broadly, when I talk to government, and it's topical here right now, about how to harness AI for good, I think there are sort of three areas. One is the innovation and investment. So your universities, the health programs, the data centers, the infrastructure you need. I think the second is workforce skills. So we don't know how job disruption will happen, but it's pretty clear, that some jobs will go away. Most jobs, I think, will get a change in how we do them, and then whole new industries will be created. So, for the last 20 years, I've worked in an industry that depended on an invention that happened just as I was graduating, right? So you'll get whole new industries we couldn't have conceived of before. So it's up to government and business to work together on how we get the workforce ready. And I think that's something we can do right now. In Google, we've trained over 1 million people in the last few years in the UK alone in digital skills. And something that Sherry and I are both really passionate about is helping people to feel confident that this can work for them. And that applies to the smallest businesses as well as the largest. And final point, many of the big technologies that enabled economic growth in the 70s when I was growing up, those are available to anyone with a smartphone. So it's changed the whole dynamics of competition. And we've got incredible retail, content industries, innovators here in the UK. We can connect to nearly all the planet. Over 70% of people are now online. It's a real moment for us to seize if we want to drive growth. But we actually have to have that at the heart of our growth strategy as a country.
And that's kind of what you were saying earlier, Sherry, which is you're worried that from a politician's perspective, and this is a useful time to have this chat because obviously all the politicians are beaming in, taking a break from their campaign trail. It's interesting that the AI Safety Summit kind of sent out almost a subliminal message, be frightened of AI. And you've been talking about what's happening in Cambridge, which not enough people know about. People get very upset about the idea of use of health data. But you're talking about a sort of cradle-to-grave embracing of AI starting in schools.
Yes, I am. I think if you think about the when in our professional services, you spend quite a lot helping your leaders and your staff upskill. Right now, we're all focusing on it so that we can do what we need to do really quickly. I worry a little bit about the small and medium-sized companies because historically they've spent between 50 and 150 pounds per year upskilling themselves, which means that if you price something at 30 pounds a month, that becomes something they can't afford, which they don't use, which means that they will fall further behind. So I worry about that, and I think about the 500,000 teachers that there are in this country. They should be really excited about how this helps them teach and how this helps them attain the outcomes that they seek. And I fear that they're a little bit fearful and a little bit reticent, and I would love to put it in their hands and help them understand why this is arguably their best friend. It allows them to stop doing things that, quite frankly, they probably don't like doing, and they're repetitive and boring, and it allows them to focus on, where humans really, really excel. And I'd like us to go far faster. And I would love the politicians and the government to focus on how we do that. There are other countries. You look in the US, you saw a development last week with Saul Khan creating his
this
AI
is the Khan Academy,
from the Khan
Mass
Academy, which is MASS, which is brilliant, providing that for free to all school children and a tutor to all teachers to help them teach their lessons better. And I think that's really important. And with that development, I don't want the UK to be left behind. So I hope that we look at that really carefully, and we work with large tech companies, like Google and others, to make this a possibility here, so we don't fall behind. Well, I don't even want to fall behind. I'd like to scoop the others. I'd like to go faster, and we've got good data sets. We've been really good with data. We've got clean data in the UK. It should enable us to go faster than some of the others out there.
It's actually a very, very empowering and attractive vision, this idea of kind of really leaning into schools and teachers and health workers in terms of using AI. And it's very, very far removed from what this conference is about, which is about media and telecoms, which I apologise, but I thought it was so interesting. Now, nominations...
The media's got a role in that, I think. The media's got a role in this, which is not just write the headlines.
Thank God you've brought us back, Matt.
There we go. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, but I want to...
The headlines write themselves, don't they? Literally. And it's easy to see the risks of AI. The risks in the near term of misuse and mistakes, and the longer term risks, of potentially, existential to the machines take over, although I think that is a long way out. And we do an AI summit, but we call it the AI Safety Summit, not the AI Opportunity Summit. I bet if Sherry had been running it, it would have been called the AI Opportunity Summit or the AI Growth Summit. So I think the risks are there, but the biggest risk is missing this moment. That's the biggest risk.
Yeah.
I mean, because the brilliant Claire Enders has just published a paper on the media and philanthropy, the power of the media to power charitable giving. So there is this theme there, Sherry.
Well, you're making me think of my TED Talk, which says we should all go back to school, why we should all go back to school. So everyone in this room, if you're not already taking time in school to help teachers understand your cool roles, or help either yourself or your students do that, then do it. Take the time. Everyone should do it. I know that we work with Google, and this is Founders for Schools, and also Maths for Girls, where we take practitioners of media and telecoms and beam them into schools, and they talk about their cool jobs.
This is a
really
kind of
important.
national service.
It is, yes. It's better than some of the other national services that there could be. But why not? I mean, I think that would be awesome. Everybody should do it. But we have cool jobs that are unimaginable to those in school and most teachers. And to make it real, it doesn't take long to go in and chat about it. The impact is immense. We've measured the impact of maths, people, women who are maths, who've used maths, talking in schools, and you get a 20% jump after a half an hour interaction. Nothing else.
You get a 10% jump in?
21% jump in a girl's aspirations to continue on in maths. And this is between 11 and 14. Many of them don't continue into A-levels, which mean they can't have our cool jobs in tech. But this changes it with a half an hour interaction with just someone from our tech and media industry, chatting to them about their cool job. You get that jump. Now imagine if you had 2 or 3 interactions, and imagine that all employers sort of recommended to their employees, just go talk about your job at a local school.
So that's your call to action, Sherry.
Yeah.
Nominations close for parliamentary seats on Thursday. if you stood for the Tory party, you could be leader of the opposition on Friday, July the 5th. So you've got Sherry's vision, a call to action, a national service in our schools. Matt, why don't you finish with your vision if you stand for Parliament and become leader of the opposition?
I'm definitely not standing for Parliament, but I think I totally support what Claire and Sherry are saying, but that's not enough. Philanthropy is not enough. Actually, it's got to be good business. And I think that's the thing that, has driven me in my time at Google is, what's good for people and technology can be good for business as well. And I think the country will need business and government to come together. So things like the training we've done, Microsoft, Apple, Meta and others have done their training. We need to harness that. Things like the investment that Gates Foundation have done in Khan Academy, we should be looking for more things like that. So I don't think any one organisation, government, business or communities can do it on their own. If we want to harness AI for good, we have to do it together.
Brilliant. Well, I'll be the one to make the cheap point, and then that was fascinating. In 15 minutes, we've got more good ideas out of you than we've had in a week-long election campaign. Thank you, Sherry Coutu and Matt Brittin, very much indeed.
Thank you, Ed.